Hey, warrior, listen to me. Right now, in this exact moment, you're standing at a crossroads. One path leads back to the noise, the distractions, the comfortable lies you've been telling yourself. The other path, the one most people will never take, leads to something ancient, something powerful, something that will shake the foundation of everything you thought you knew about strength and control. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his private journal, "Words never meant for our eyes. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that. The Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the known world, sitting alone at night, reminding himself of this truth. Not power over armies, not power over gold or land, power over his own mind. That was the battle. That's still the battle. Let me paint you a picture of what I see every single day. People scrolling endlessly through their phones, feeding on validation like it's oxygen, chasing comfort like it's a virtue, running from pain like it's the enemy, building entire lives around avoiding discomfort, around seeking pleasure, around appearing successful to people they don't even like. They're asleep, walking through life with their eyes open but their souls dormant. They've traded their power for comfort, their purpose for distraction, their potential for the path of least resistance. The system wants you this way, weak, distracted, controllable. It profits from your scrolling, from your shopping, from your constant need for external validation. It needs you to believe that happiness comes from the next purchase, the next relationship, the next achievement. Because as long as you're chasing, you're never arriving. As long as you're seeking outside yourself, you're never looking within. And as long as you're asleep, you're never dangerous. But here's what they didn't count on. Some of you right now, reading these words, you feel it. That ember still glowing in your chest. That whisper saying there's more. That ancient part of you that remembers what it means to be truly alive, truly free, truly powerful. You're here because something in you refuses to die quietly. Something in you knows the comfortable life is the slow death, and you're ready to wake up. This is your moment. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. The time you've been waiting for, it's not coming. It's here. It's always been here. The question is, will you finally answer the call? Now let me be clear. This message is not for everyone. Most people will click away within the first minute. They'll go back to their feeds, their fantasies, their comfortable cages, and that's okay. This path, the Stoic path, it's not for the masses. It's for the few who are willing to look in the mirror and face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable. It's for those who understand that real strength isn't about what you can bench press or how much money you make. It's about what you can endure, what you can control, what you can transform within yourself. If that fire still burns inside you, if you're tired of being weak, if you're done with the excuses and the victim mentality, if you're ready to reclaim your power, then stay with me. Because in this video, I'm going to share with you 12 Stoic truths that most people will never discover. Not because these truths are hidden, but because most people lack the courage to face them. These aren't comfortable ideas. They won't make you feel warm and fuzzy, but they will set you free. They will make you dangerous. They will transform you from a passenger in your own life to the captain of your soul. Are you ready? Then let's begin. Number 1. You own nothing but your thoughts and your choices. Everything else can be taken from you in an instant. Your money, your health, your relationships, your reputation, all of it. temporary, all of it borrowed. You came into this world with nothing, and you'll leave the same way. But the Stoics understood something profound. They understood that true wealth, true power, lives in the untouchable realm of your inner citadel, your thoughts, your judgments, your will. Think about how you live right now. How much of your peace depends on things going your way? Your girlfriend texting you back, your boss appreciating your work, your investment going up, your body looking a certain way. You've built a house of cards and called it stability. And every time the wind blows, you panic. Every time something doesn't align with your expectations, you crumble. Why? Because you've given your power away. You've attached your well-being to external outcomes, to things you cannot control. Epictetus, who was born a slave, understood this better than most. He said, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." A slave teaching emperors about freedom. Think about that irony. He had no control over his circumstances, his status, his chains, but he had absolute sovereignty over his mind. And in that sovereignty, he found a freedom that most free men never experience. Here's what this looks like in practice. You lose your job. The average person spirals. Depression, anxiety, identity crisis. The Stoic. They recognize this is an external event. They cannot control it, but they can control their response. They can control their effort in finding the next opportunity. They can control whether they use this as a catalyst for growth or an excuse for stagnation. Same event, two entirely different realities. The difference? One person owns their mind. The other is owned by circumstances. Your girlfriend leaves you. Your friend betrays you. Your business fails. These are all outside your control. The only thing you control is how you interpret these events, what meaning you assign them, and what actions you take in response. That's it. That's all you've ever controlled. And that's more than enough. Stop trying to control the uncontrollable. Stop exhausting yourself, trying to manage every outcome. Start focusing that energy inward, on the one domain where you have absolute power. Your perception, your judgment, your will. This is the first truth. Understand it, and everything changes. Type this below. I control my mind, and that is enough. Number 2. Your suffering is not caused by what happens to you, but by your judgment about what happens to you. This is perhaps the most revolutionary truth in all of Stoic philosophy, and most people will reject it immediately because it destroys their favorite coping mechanism, the victim narrative. Let me be direct. The traffic jam doesn't make you angry. Your judgment that you shouldn't be in traffic makes you angry. The criticism doesn't hurt you. Your judgment that you should be praised instead makes you hurt. The rejection doesn't devastate you. Your judgment that you're entitled to acceptance devastates you. See the pattern? The event is neutral. Your judgment creates your suffering. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Read that again. At any moment. Not eventually. Not after therapy. Not when conditions change. Right now. You have the power to revoke your suffering by changing your judgment. This doesn't mean bad things don't happen. Of course they do. People die. Relationships end. Plans fail. But the Stoics understood that we add mountains of unnecessary suffering on top of unavoidable pain. We take a difficult situation and make it unbearable through our judgments, our resistance, our stories about what should or shouldn't be happening. Watch how people torture themselves. Someone cuts them off in traffic, and they're furious for the next hour, ruining their mood, snapping at their family, creating a cascade of negativity. Why? Because they judge that action as a personal attack, as something that shouldn't happen in a fair world. Meanwhile, the other driver forgot about it 3 seconds later. Who's suffering? Only the person clinging to the judgment. The Stoic approach is radical. Strip away the judgment. See events as they are, not as you wish they were. Someone insults you. Okay, that's just air vibrating, creating sound patterns. You can choose to interpret those sound patterns as devastating, or you can recognize they reveal more about the speaker than about you. Someone doesn't text you back. Okay, that's just an absence of pixels on a screen. You can choose to spiral into anxiety and self-doubt, or you can recognize you're creating a story that may have nothing to do with reality. This is liberation, when you realize that your suffering comes from your judgments, not from events. You realize you've been holding the key to your prison cell the entire time. The door was never locked. You were just convinced it was. Change your judgments. Change your experience. It's that simple and that difficult. Type this below. My judgments create my reality, and I choose wisely. Number 3. The obstacle is not blocking the way. It is the way. This truth will flip your entire relationship with difficulty upside down. Most people see obstacles as problems to avoid. The Stoic sees them as opportunities to grow, not in some toxic positivity way, but in a deeply practical, almost mathematical way. Think about it. Every obstacle is an opportunity to practice a virtue. Someone wrongs you. Opportunity to practice forgiveness and emotional control. Lose your money. Opportunity to practice resilience and resourcefulness. Face rejection. Opportunity to practice courage and persistence. The obstacle itself becomes the path of development, not despite the difficulty, but because of it. Marcus Aurelius, facing endless wars, plagues, betrayals, and the weight of an empire, wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He wasn't speaking theoretically. He was living it. Every crisis was his classroom. Every challenge was his teacher. He didn't wait for perfect conditions to develop his character. He used the imperfect conditions as the very mechanism of his development. Here's where most people get it wrong. They're waiting for the right time, waiting for fewer obstacles, waiting for an easier path. And while they wait, life passes them by. The Stoic understands that there is no path without obstacles. There is no growth without resistance. The obstacles are not unfortunate detours on your journey. They are the journey. You want to build discipline. You need the obstacle of not wanting to wake up early. That resistance, that's not the problem. That's the weight you lift to build the muscle of discipline. You want to build emotional control? You need people to test you, to anger you, to challenge you. Those people aren't in your way. They're your training partners. You want to build courage? You need fear. You need situations that make you uncomfortable. That discomfort is not the enemy. It's the signal that you're at the edge of growth. Average people see an obstacle and complain. They ask, "Why me?" They look for someone to blame. They wait for the obstacle to disappear before they move forward. The Stoic sees an obstacle and asks, "How can I use this?" They recognize that every obstacle contains within it the seed of equivalent or greater benefit. Not because the universe is fair, but because they're committed to extracting value from everything. Your business partner betrays you. Painful, absolutely. But now you learn discernment. You learn to build better systems. You learn to rely on yourself. The betrayal becomes your teacher. Your body breaks down. Frustrating? Of course. But now you learn patience. You learn to value health. You learn to adapt. The injury becomes your guide. See how this works? Nothing is wasted. Everything is fuel. Comment this: every obstacle is making me stronger. Number 4, death is not waiting at the end of your life. It is walking beside you right now, every single moment. And instead of being morbid, this is the most liberating truth you could possibly embrace. The Stoics called it memento mori. Remember, you must die, not as a depressing reminder, but as a clarifying force. You have less time than you think, dramatically less, and you're wasting most of it. Scrolling, procrastinating, arguing with strangers on the internet, holding grudges, putting off important conversations, delaying your dreams, living as if you have unlimited tomorrows. You don't. None of us do. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Think about what changes when you truly internalize your mortality. That argument with your brother suddenly seems petty when you realize one of you could be gone tomorrow. That dream you've been postponing, suddenly urgent when you recognize your window is closing. That grudge you're holding, suddenly exhausting when you realize you're spending your limited heartbeats on resentment. Death is the ultimate deadline. Not in some future fantasy, but right now. You could die today. This could be your last conversation, your last meal, your last sunset. The Stoics weren't being dramatic. They were being realistic. And this realism forced them to ask the most important question: if this is my last day, am I living in alignment with my values? Am I being who I want to be? Or am I performing for others, postponing what matters, sleepwalking through the only life I have? Most people live in denial of death. They push it away. They distract themselves. They build elaborate fantasies about having time later. Later to start the business. Later to heal the relationship. Later to pursue the passion. Later to become who they know they could be. And then later runs out. And they die with their song still inside them, their potential unrealized, their time wasted on things that never mattered. The Stoic does the opposite. They meditate on death daily, not morbidly, but practically. They remind themselves that this breath could be their last. And in that reminder, they find focus, they find priority, they find courage. Because when you remember you're going to die, you stop caring about impressing people who don't matter. You stop postponing joy. You stop tolerating situations that drain your soul. You start living with intention, with urgency, with truth. Here's your practice. Every morning, before you check your phone and before you dive into the noise, remind yourself, I could die today. This could be my last chance to be courageous, to be kind, to be present, to be real. Not to create anxiety, but to create clarity. What would you do differently if you knew you had one day left? Now ask yourself, why are you waiting? Type this now. Death reminds me to live fully today. Number 5. What other people think of you is none of your business, and it's certainly not your burden to carry. This truth will free you from the invisible prison that holds most people captive their entire lives. The prison of approval, the prison of reputation, the prison of trying to control the uncontrollable thoughts in other people's heads. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, wrote, how much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only at what he does himself, to make it just and holy. Think about that. The emperor, surrounded by thousands of people whose approval or disapproval could change with the wind, consciously chose to stop caring what they thought. He recognized that their opinions were their business, not his. Look at how you live right now. How much energy are you burning trying to manage your image? Crafting the perfect social media post. Saying what you think people want to hear instead of what's true. Choosing your clothes, your car, your career based on what will impress people you don't even respect. You're not living your life. You're performing a character in a play where everyone in the audience is also an actor too busy with their own performance to really see you. Here's the truth that will set you free. Most people aren't thinking about you at all. They're thinking about themselves. They're worried about their own image, their own insecurities, their own approval ratings. And the few who are judging you, they're judging you through the distorted lens of their own wounds, their own fears, their own limited perspective. Their opinion of you says more about them than it does about you. Epictetus was clear about this. If someone criticizes you, consider whether what they say is true. If it is, then correct yourself. If it isn't, then laugh and move on, because they're talking about someone who doesn't exist. This is the Stoic filter. Is the criticism true? Then it's useful information. Use it to grow. Is it false? Then it's irrelevant noise. Ignore it. Either way, you don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to manage their perception. The average person is enslaved by reputation. One bad review, and they spiral. Someone unfollows them, and they panic. Someone misunderstands them, and they exhaust themselves explaining. They're trying to control the uncontrollable, and it's killing them slowly. The Stoic? They do their best work. They act with integrity. They know who they are. And then, they let the chips fall where they may. If you appreciate them, great. If you don't, also great. Your opinion doesn't define their reality. This doesn't mean you don't care about being a good person. It means you don't care about being seen as a good person. There's a massive difference. One is virtue. The other is vanity. One is internal. The other is external. One you can control. The other you cannot. Focus on being, not appearing. Focus on integrity, not image. Do the right thing because it's right, not because someone might applaud. Live from the inside out, not the outside in. When you stop performing for others, you start being yourself. When you stop managing your reputation, you start building your character. When you stop caring what they think, you start doing what matters. This is freedom. Type this. I am not defined by opinions, I am defined by actions. Number 6. Feelings are real, but they're not facts. And they're definitely not commands you have to obey. This distinction, this truth, is the foundation of emotional mastery. Most people are tyrannized by their emotions. They feel anxious, so they avoid. They feel angry, so they attack. They feel lazy, so they procrastinate. They've become slaves to every fluctuation in their emotional weather. The Stoics understood something crucial. You are not your emotions. You are the one who experiences emotions, and that's a game-changing difference. Think about it. A thought appears. I'm not good enough. Most people immediately identify with that thought. They say, I am not good enough. They've merged with the thought, accepted it as truth. The Stoic notices the thought. I'm noticing the thought that I'm not good enough. See the space created? In that space lives your power. You're not the thought. You're the awareness of the thought. And from that awareness, you can choose whether to believe it or dismiss it. Same with emotions. Fear arises. The average person becomes fear. I'm scared, so I can't do this. The Stoic experiences fear. I notice fear is present and I'm doing this anyway. The emotion doesn't disappear, but it also doesn't dictate the action. Action is based on values and principles, not on emotional comfort. Seneca wrote about this extensively. He talked about how the wise person doesn't try to eliminate emotions, but rather refuses to be controlled by them. Emotions are information. Sometimes useful, sometimes not, but they're not orders. You can feel afraid and act courageously. You can feel lazy and act disciplined. You can feel hurt and act with compassion. The emotion and the action don't have to match. Here's where most people fail. They wait to feel motivated before they act. They wait for inspiration before they create. They wait for confidence before they try. They're waiting for an emotional state that may never come. Meanwhile, the Stoic understands that action creates emotion, not the other way around. You don't wait to feel confident. You act, and confidence follows. You don't wait to feel motivated. You start, and motivation shows up. Discipline is doing what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. This is mastery. Waking up when your body wants to sleep. Training when your mind wants to rest. Having the hard conversation when your emotions want to avoid. Choosing the right path when your feelings pull you toward the easy path. This is what separates the strong from the weak. Not that the strong don't feel weakness. They do, but they don't obey it. They feel it, acknowledge it, and act in alignment with their principles anyway. Your emotions are not your enemy, but they're also not your master. They're like children, loud and demanding, but not qualified to drive the car. You're the adult. You're the one in charge. Feel everything, but don't let feelings make your decisions. Lead from your values, not from your moods. This is the path to becoming unshakable. Comment below, I feel my emotions, but they don't control me. Number 7, comfort is not the goal. It's the poison. This is the truth that goes against everything modern society tells you. Every advertisement, every algorithm, every message you receive is designed to make you seek comfort. Buy this to be comfortable. Watch this to be entertained. Eat this to feel good. Avoid that to prevent discomfort. And slowly, incrementally, you become soft. You become weak. You become someone who can't handle the slightest friction without falling apart. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort, deliberately. Marcus Aurelius, who could have lived in absolute luxury, would sleep on the floor. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, would practice poverty, not because they were masochists, but because they understood something profound. Your capacity to handle discomfort determines your capacity to achieve anything meaningful. Every great thing requires discomfort. Building a business, uncomfortable. Building a relationship, uncomfortable. Building your body, uncomfortable. Building your character, uncomfortable. There's no path to anything worth having that doesn't go directly through discomfort. So the question is not whether you'll experience discomfort. The question is, are you capable of it? Most people today cannot handle basic discomfort. They can't skip a meal without panicking. They can't be alone with their thoughts for 5 minutes. They can't have a difficult conversation. They can't wake up early. They can't endure criticism. They can't persist through challenge. They've optimized for comfort and wondered why they feel so weak, so anxious, so unfulfilled. because comfort doesn't build character. Discomfort does. Here's your practice. Seek discomfort deliberately. Take cold showers. Fast occasionally. Wake up before you want to. Have the conversation you're avoiding. Do the hard workout. Sit in silence. Spend time alone. Practice saying no. Practice hearing no. Not to torture yourself, but to build resilience. To prove to yourself that you can handle discomfort. Because once you realize you can handle voluntary discomfort, forced discomfort becomes much less threatening. The Stoics called this premeditation of adversity. They would imagine losing everything: their wealth, their health, their loved ones. Not to be pessimistic, but to remove the fear. Because when you've mentally rehearsed the worst-case scenario, when you've proven to yourself that you could survive it, it loses its power over you. You stop making decisions based on avoiding discomfort. You start making decisions based on what's right, what's true, what matters. Comfort makes you fragile. Discomfort makes you anti-fragile. Comfort shrinks your world. Discomfort expands it. Comfort is the slow death disguised as the good life. Discomfort is the forge where your character is shaped. Stop avoiding pain. Start using it. Every moment of discomfort is a repetition in the gym of life. You're either getting stronger or getting weaker. There's no maintenance mode. Choose strength. Type this: discomfort is my training ground. Number 8. Silence is not weakness. It's power that most people never access because they can't shut up long enough to hear the truth. We live in a world addicted to noise. Constant talking, constant scrolling, constant input, constant distraction. And in all that noise, we've lost the ability to hear the still, small voice of wisdom that only speaks in silence. The Stoics were advocates of silence, not as a virtue signal, but as a practical tool for clarity. Epictetus taught, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Simple advice, rarely followed. Think about your conversations. How often are you actually listening versus just waiting for your turn to talk? How often are you speaking to impress versus speaking because you have something worth saying? How often is your noise just filling the void because you're uncomfortable with silence? Here's what happens when you embrace silence. First, you hear yourself clearly. All the thoughts you've been drowning out with distraction suddenly have space to surface. And yes, some of them are uncomfortable. Some of them reveal truths you've been avoiding, but others contain the wisdom you've been seeking externally. The answers were always inside you. You just couldn't hear them over the noise. Second, you become magnetic. People who can be comfortable in silence, who don't need to fill every gap with words, who listen more than they speak, they stand out. They command respect. Because silence signals confidence. It signals that you don't need external validation. It signals that you're comfortable with yourself. Weak people fill silence with nervous chatter. Strong people let silence do its work. Third, your words gain weight. When you speak rarely, people listen carefully. When you speak constantly, people tune out. The Stoics understood this. They measured their words. They spoke with purpose. They recognized that every word carries responsibility. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." How much of your suffering comes from words? Words you said you regret. Words others said that you keep replaying. Words you're planning to say that create anxiety. What if you used fewer words? What if you spoke only when silence would be worse than speaking? Practice this. 1 day a week, speak only when necessary. No small talk, no filler, no performing. Just silence. Watch what happens. Watch how much energy you reclaim. Watch how much clarity you gain. Watch how the noise in your head starts to settle. In that settling, you'll discover a wisdom that no book, no podcast, no guru can give you. Your own. The modern world fears silence because silence exposes the emptiness, but for the Stoic, silence is the sanctuary. It's where truth lives. It's where power is cultivated. Stop trying to be heard. Start being worth hearing. Stop filling the void. Start exploring it. In the silence between thoughts, between words, between noise, that's where you'll find yourself. Comment this: my silence is my power. Number 9. Focus is not about doing more, it's about doing less. It's about saying no to almost everything, so you can say yes to the one thing that matters. This truth destroys the modern myth of productivity, the hustle culture that mistakes busyness for effectiveness, motion for progress, exhaustion for accomplishment. Marcus Aurelius, running an empire, wrote, "Most of what we say and do is not essential. If you can eliminate it, you'll have more time and more tranquility. Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary?" The emperor was advocating for simplicity, for focus, for ruthlessly cutting away everything that doesn't serve the essential, because he understood that every yes to something unimportant is a no to something important. Look at your life right now. How many things are you trying to do? How many apps are on your phone? How many commitments are on your calendar? How many people are you trying to please? How many goals are you juggling? How many distractions are you entertaining? You're scattered, fragmented, a mile wide and an inch deep, and you wonder why you're not making progress. Because you're trying to go everywhere, which means you're going nowhere. The Stoic approach is radical simplicity. One thing. What's the one thing that, if you did it excellently, would make everything else easier or unnecessary? Find that thing. Focus on that thing. Cut away everything else. Not eventually. Now. Every distraction you tolerate is energy stolen from your priority. Every unnecessary commitment is time stolen from what matters. Every yes you give to something trivial is a no. You're giving to something important. Seneca was brutal about this. He talked about how people complain about not having enough time, but they waste the time they have on things that don't matter. They say yes to every request. They scroll for hours. They attend meetings that don't need them. They maintain relationships that drain them. They pursue goals they don't actually care about. And then they wonder why they feel empty, why they're not progressing, why life feels so overwhelming. Here's the practice. Make a list of everything you're currently doing. Everything. Now ask for each item. Is this essential? Does this serve my highest values? Does this move me toward who I want to become? Be honest. Most things won't pass this filter. Cut them ruthlessly, without guilt. You're not being selfish. You're being strategic. You're protecting your most valuable resource, your attention, from theft. Focus is a superpower in a distracted world. While everyone else is scattered, you're concentrated. While everyone else is reacting, you're creating. While everyone else is doing 20 things poorly, you're doing one thing excellently. And in that excellence, in that focus, you find fulfillment. Not in the completion, but in the process. Because you're fully present. You're not thinking about the 100 other things you should be doing. You're here, now, fully engaged. The obstacle to focus is not lack of time. It's lack of priority. It's the inability to say no. It's the fear of missing out. It's the need to keep options open. It's the fantasy that you can have it all. You can't. Nobody can. But you can have the one thing that matters most, and that one thing, pursued with full focus, will be more fulfilling than 1,000 things pursued half-heartedly. Type this: focus is my secret weapon. Number 10. Your perception is your reality, and you have complete control over your perception. This is perhaps the most empowering truth in all of Stoic philosophy. It means that no matter what happens to you, you have the final say in what it means. You have the power to interpret events in a way that serves you or in a way that destroys you. And that choice, that power, nobody can take from you. Marcus Aurelius put it simply: the universe is change. Life is opinion. Everything that happens is just raw data. It's neutral. You assign the meaning. Someone criticizes you. That criticism is just sound waves, just words. You decide if it's devastating feedback or useful information. You lose money. That loss is just numbers changing. You decide if it's a catastrophe or a lesson. You face rejection. That rejection is just someone's preference. You decide if it's proof you're not enough or proof you're courageous enough to try. Think about two people experiencing the same event. One gets fired. Person A spirals into depression, sees it as proof they're worthless, drinks themselves into oblivion. Person B sees it as liberation, uses it as motivation to start the business they've been dreaming about, finds success they never would have found in that job. Same event. Two radically different outcomes. Why? Different perception, different interpretation, different meaning assigned. This is your power. You're not powerless in the face of circumstances. You're powerless only if you surrender your perception to automatic negative interpretations. But when you take conscious control of how you perceive events, everything changes. You stop being a victim of what happens. You start being an architect of what it means. Here's how this works practically. Something difficult happens. Your immediate reaction is probably negative. That's normal. That's your conditioning. But you don't have to stop there. You can ask, how else could I perceive this? What's useful about this situation? What can I learn? How is this serving me even if I don't see it yet? These questions shift your perception. They don't change what happened. They change what it means. Epictetus taught his students this rigorously. He would say, "It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about things." He would show them that two people could face the same situation and have completely different experiences based solely on their perception. The person with the Stoic perception sees obstacles as opportunities, sees criticism as data, sees failure as feedback. The person without it sees obstacles as oppression, sees criticism as attack, sees failure as identity. Your perception is a skill. You can train it. You can strengthen it. Every time something happens, you have a choice. You can perceive it through the lens of victimhood, scarcity, and fear. Or you can perceive it through the lens of agency, abundance, and growth. The event stays the same. Your experience becomes completely different. And over time, as you practice perceiving events in empowering ways, you literally change your reality. Not by changing what happens, but by changing what it means to you. This is not positive thinking. This is not pretending problems don't exist. This is strategic perception. This is choosing interpretations that serve you instead of destroy you. This is recognizing that reality is not fixed. It's constructed. And you're the constructor. Take your power back. Stop letting your automatic, conditioned, fear-based perception run your life. Start consciously choosing perceptions that empower you. Comment below. My perception is my power. Number 11. The present moment is all you have, and you're wasting it by living anywhere else. This truth cuts deep because most people spend their entire lives somewhere other than here. They're in the past, replaying conversations, nursing wounds, regretting choices. Or they're in the future, anxious about what might happen, planning for conditions that may never arrive, waiting for life to start. Meanwhile, life is happening right now, and they're missing it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present," not as a casual suggestion, as a command, because he understood that the present moment is the only place where you have power. You cannot change the past. You cannot control the future. But right now, in this moment, you have complete agency. You can choose your thought. You can choose your action. You can choose your response, but only now, not later, not yesterday, now. Think about where your mind goes throughout the day. You're in a conversation, but you're thinking about what you're going to say next. You're eating a meal, but you're scrolling on your phone. You're with your family, but you're worried about work. You're working, but you're thinking about the weekend. You're never where you are. You're always somewhere else. And in that displacement, you're losing the only life you actually have. This one, now. The Stoics practiced presence as a discipline. They would train themselves to come back to the moment repeatedly. When the mind wandered to anxiety about the future, they would ask, "Is there something I need to do right now? No? Then let it go." When the mind wandered to regret about the past, they would ask, "Can I change it? No? Then let it go." They weren't suppressing. They were redirecting energy back to the only place it could be used. Here, now. Seneca said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." Read that carefully. Without anxious dependence upon the future, not without planning, without anxiety, without attachment to outcomes you can't control. The future is built by what you do in the present, not by what you worry about in the present. Worrying about the future steals from the present without adding to the future. It's the worst trade you could make. Here's your practice. Multiple times throughout the day, stop, breathe. Ask yourself, where am I right now? What am I actually doing? What am I actually experiencing? Bring your full attention to this moment. The sensation of breathing, the feeling of your body, the task at hand, the person in front of you. Be here, fully, without division, without your mind being somewhere else. This is presence. This is power. This is life actually being lived. Most people die without ever being fully alive because they were always somewhere else. Don't be most people. The past is gone. Learn from it and let it go. The future is not here yet. Prepare for it and let it go. All you have is now, and now is enough. Now is everything. The Stoics knew this. They practiced this, and it gave them a peace that external circumstances couldn't touch, because they were always home, always here, always present. Type this: I am fully present in this moment. Number 12. Virtue is the only true good, and everything else is irrelevant to your well-being. This is the capstone truth of Stoic philosophy. The one that brings everything together. The one that seems insane at first, and then becomes the most liberating realization you could possibly have. Health, wealth, pleasure, reputation, success, all the things people chase their whole lives. The Stoics called these preferred indifference, nice to have, but ultimately irrelevant to your true well-being, because your well-being Your eudaimonia, your human flourishing depends on only one thing: virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control. Think about what that means. It means that you can be poor and virtuous, and therefore happy. You can be sick and virtuous, and therefore happy. You can be unknown and virtuous, and therefore happy. Because happiness, true happiness, doesn't depend on external conditions. It depends on internal character. It depends on whether you're being the person you know you should be. Not whether you're getting what you want, but whether you're being who you value. Marcus Aurelius had everything: power, wealth, fame, and none of it made him happy. What made him happy was living according to his principles, acting with integrity, serving with justice, facing difficulty with courage, controlling his reactions with discipline. That's where his peace came from, not from his circumstances, but from his character. This turns everything upside down. It means that the person with nothing who acts with virtue is more successful than the billionaire who acts without integrity. It means that the unknown person who lives courageously is more admirable than the celebrity who lives cowardly. It means that external success, divorced from internal virtue, is not success at all. It's just accumulation. And accumulation without character is empty. The average person spends their whole life chasing things that don't actually contribute to their well-being. They think if they just get the promotion, the relationship, the body, the house, then they'll be happy. And they get those things, and they're still unhappy because they're looking in the wrong place. They're trying to build well-being from external circumstances. The Stoic builds well-being from internal character, and once you have that, circumstances become irrelevant. Here's the question that changes everything. In this moment, am I being virtuous? Am I acting with wisdom, with justice, with courage, with self-control? If yes, then you're succeeding. Regardless of outcome, regardless of what anyone thinks, regardless of what you're gaining or losing. If you're being virtuous, you're winning. And if you're not being virtuous, you're losing. Even if you're gaining the whole world. This doesn't mean you don't try to improve your circumstances. You do. But you recognize that improving your circumstances is not the goal. Living virtuously is the goal. Circumstances are just the arena where you practice virtue. You pursue wealth, but you do it with integrity. You pursue health, but you don't compromise your principles to get it. You pursue success, but you recognize that success without virtue is failure in disguise. The Stoics were not ascetics. They didn't reject external goods. They just refused to make their happiness dependent on them. And in that refusal, they found a freedom that people who have everything but lack virtue will never experience. They couldn't be threatened, because there was nothing you could take from them that mattered. They couldn't be tempted, because there was nothing you could offer them that was worth their integrity. This is the ultimate truth. Virtue is enough. Character is enough. Being the person you know you should be is enough. Not because external things don't matter, but because they matter so much less than who you're being while you pursue them. Focus on your character and let everything else be a bonus, not a requirement, not a condition, a bonus. Type this: my virtue is my wealth. Let's bring this all together. 12 truths. 12 principles that can transform your life if you actually live them. Not if you agree with them. Not if you intellectually understand them. But if you practice them. Every single day. In every moment of challenge, of choice, of truth. You now understand that you control only your mind and your choices. Everything else is borrowed, temporary, outside your domain. Stop trying to control the weather. Start controlling your response to it. That's where your power lives. In that inner citadel that nobody can breach unless you let them. You now understand that your suffering comes from your judgment, not from events. The traffic doesn't anger you. Your judgment that you shouldn't be in traffic angers you. Change your judgments. Change your life. Stop arguing with reality. Start interpreting it in ways that serve you. You now understand that the obstacle is the way. Every difficulty is an opportunity to practice virtue. Every challenge is your training ground. Stop waiting for an easy path. Start using the difficult path as the mechanism of your growth. The resistance is not the problem. The resistance is the solution. You now understand that death is walking beside you, right now, always. And instead of being depressing, this is clarifying. This is urgent. This is the antidote to procrastination and pretense. You don't have unlimited time. You have now. Use it. Live it. Don't save your best for later. Later may never come. You now understand that other people's opinions are not your business. Their thoughts, their judgments, their perceptions, those are their domain, not yours. Your domain is your character. Be who you know you should be. Let the approval or disapproval fall where it may. You're not performing for an audience. You're living for yourself. You now understand that feelings are real, but not facts. They're information, not commands. You can feel afraid and act brave. You can feel lazy and act disciplined. You can feel hurt and act with love. The emotion and the action don't have to match. You're not your feelings. You're the one who experiences feelings. Lead from your values, not from your moods. You now understand that comfort is poison. Voluntary discomfort is the forge where your character is shaped. Stop avoiding pain. Start using it. Every moment of discomfort is a repetition. You're either getting stronger or getting weaker. Choose strength. Embrace the cold. Embrace the hard. Embrace the uncomfortable. That's where growth lives. You now understand that silence is power. In a world addicted to noise, your ability to be comfortable in silence sets you apart. It gives you clarity. It gives you presence. It gives your words weight. Speak less. Listen more. And in the quiet, you'll hear the wisdom that only speaks in silence. You now understand that focus is everything. One thing done excellently beats 1,000 things done poorly. Cut away the non-essential. Say no to almost everything. Protect your attention like it's your most valuable resource, because it is. Where your attention goes, your life goes. Choose wisely. You now understand that perception is reality, and you control your perception. You're not powerless. You're not a victim. You're the interpreter of your experience. Choose interpretations that empower you. Choose perceptions that serve you. The event doesn't change. Your experience of it becomes entirely different. You now understand that the present moment is all you have. The past is gone. The future is not here. Now is where life is happening. Now is where your power exists. Be here, fully. Stop living in memory or imagination. Start living in reality. This breath, this moment, this is it. You now understand that virtue is the only true good. Health, wealth, pleasure, success, these are bonuses. Nice to have, but not required for your well-being. Your well-being depends on your character, on whether you're being who you know you should be. Focus on virtue and everything else becomes a bonus, not a necessity. These 12 truths, they're not philosophy for the sake of philosophy. They're tools. They're weapons. They're the difference between being controlled by life and controlling how you respond to life. The Stoics didn't theorize from ivory towers. They practiced in the arena. Marcus Aurelius led armies. Epictetus survived slavery. Seneca navigated the treacherous politics of Rome. They lived these truths. They tested them. They proved them. And they work. They worked 2,000 years ago, and they work now, because human nature hasn't changed. The challenges look different, but the principles are eternal. But here's the thing, knowing these truths means nothing. Information without implementation is just entertainment. You've been entertained. Now what? Are you going to close this video, feel inspired for 5 minutes, and then go back to your old patterns? Or are you going to let this be the moment that changes everything? Because that's what this is. A moment. A decision point. You can go back to sleep, back to the comfortable lies, back to the weak version of yourself that you know you're meant to outgrow. Or you can wake up. Right now. You can decide that today is the day you stop being a passenger. Today is the day you become the captain. Today is the day you start living like a Stoic. Not perfectly, not without struggle, but with intention, with discipline, with courage. Memento mori. Remember, you must die. This life, it's finite. Your time is running out. Not in some distant future. Right now. Every moment you waste scrolling, procrastinating, complaining, that's a moment you'll never get back. Every day you postpone becoming who you could be is a day you're choosing to remain who you've been. And who you've been, is it enough? Is it who you're meant to be? Or is there something more, something truer, something stronger waiting to emerge? The Stoics believed that we all have a demon, an inner genius, a higher self that knows who we're meant to become, and most people die without ever meeting that self. They spend their whole lives being a shadow of what they could be, living small, playing safe, seeking comfort, avoiding discomfort. And they reach the end having never truly lived, having never truly tried, having never truly become. Don't be that person. You feel it in your chest right now. That pull, that calling, that whisper saying there's more. Listen to it. Honor it. Follow it. Not tomorrow. Today. Start today. Wake up earlier. Train harder. Speak less. Listen more. Face your fears. Have the difficult conversation. Cut out the distractions. Focus on what matters. Build your character. Practice virtue. Live like you're going to die. Because you are. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is your one life. Your one shot. Your one opportunity to see what you're capable of. To see who you can become. To see if you have what it takes to live according to principles instead of emotions. According to values instead of validation, according to truth instead of comfort. The Stoics proved it's possible. Now it's your turn to prove it's possible for you. So here's your mission. Here's your path forward. Every morning, before you do anything else, remind yourself of these truths. Read them, speak them, internalize them. And then, throughout the day, practice them. When something goes wrong, remember, you control your response. When someone criticizes you, remember, their opinion is not your business. When you face an obstacle, remember, this is the way. When you feel uncomfortable, remember, this is growth. When you want to quit, remember, discipline over feelings. When you lose focus, remember one thing done well. When you spiral about the future, remember only now exists. When you're tempted to compromise your principles, remember virtue is the only true good. This is the path. It's not easy. If it were, everyone would walk it. But it's simple, and it works. The Stoics proved it, not through theory, but through lived experience. Through wars and plagues and betrayals and exile and every hardship imaginable. And they not only survived, they thrived. They found peace in chaos. They found strength in adversity. They found freedom in discipline. And so can you. Comment your truth below. Tell me, which of these 12 truths resonated most deeply? Tell me which one you're committing to practice today. Tell me you're ready to walk this path. Because when you declare it publicly, you're making a commitment, not to me, to yourself. And that commitment, that declaration, that's the first step in your transformation. Like this video, if you made it this far, you're part of the few. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Someone who's still asleep. Someone who's struggling. Someone who's ready for the truth. And subscribe, because this is just the beginning. We're building a community of modern Stoics here. People who refuse to be weak. People who choose discipline over comfort. People who understand that the ancient wisdom is the key to modern strength. You're a warrior. You always have been. You just forgot for a while. You got comfortable. You got distracted. You got soft. But that ends now. Today, you remember. Today, you reclaim your power. Today, you start walking the Stoic path. Not perfectly, but persistently. One choice at a time. One moment at a time. One day at a time. The Stoics are calling to you across the centuries. Marcus, Seneca, Epictetus. They're showing you the way. They're proving it's possible. They're reminding you of who you really are beneath the conditioning, beneath the fear, beneath the weakness. You're stronger than you know. You're capable of more than you've allowed yourself to believe. And the only thing standing between you and that strength is your willingness to claim it. So claim it. Right now. Say it out loud if you have to. I'm in control of my mind. I'm in control of my choices. I'm responsible for my life. I'm walking the Stoic path. I'm becoming who I'm meant to be. Starting now. Starting today. Say it. Mean it. Live it. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your life. Take it back. Walk the path. Become the warrior. The Stoic warrior you were always meant to be.